Morning and welcome to our webinar on Single Touch Payroll. Thank you for joining us this morning. A bit of housekeeping before we get going. We're using a Zoom webinar. So if you need to or would like to ask a question at any time during the webinar, please click on the Q&A panel and just type in your question and we'll answer that as we go. So we're also recording this webinar, so that will be made available to you after. Thank you for registering in advance, and we'll make sure you get a copy after we complete the webinar this morning. So let's get started. A single touch payroll is now upon us. It's been in discussion for quite some time now, and it has settled down and it's ready to be implemented for all small business. So we're going to have a very brief look at single touch payroll before we get going. Okay, so a little bit about me. So I've been working in this industry for over 25 years. It's seen a lot of changes, including GST and the pay-as-you-go system. And now we're about to see our latest change that affects small and medium businesses with single touch payroll. So what is single touch payroll? One way to describe it would be simple touch payroll. It is actually quite a simple process once it's set up and going, and quite straightforward. So single touch payroll, the ATO has been working towards this for a number of years, and it's aimed at having a single point of online payroll reporting, making it easy for employers to lodge the employees' tax, super directly to the ATO. But the key difference here is that each time you process a payroll, your information will be sent to the ATO, and your employees' records will be updated instantly. So we'll have a single point of payroll processing and reporting to the ATO. So we'll go and see what that looks like. Now, this is becoming mandatory for all employers from 1 July 2019 this year. Now, you do have the option to adopt earlier, and you may have heard of other companies already using single touch payroll. For larger employers, ones with a headcount of 20 employees, back in April 2018, they were required to implement single touch payroll from the 1st of July 2018. So many companies have already been required to report using single touch payroll, and you have had the option to adopt earlier. Now, our recommendation was to delay the adoption of single touch payroll, and the main reason for that is whenever the ATO implements a new system, there are always teething issues and always some administrative things that weren't quite thought through when they've implemented the process. It's good to see now that all of that has actually settled down, and in fact there wasn't a lot of complication that came out of it. The ATO took a two-stage approach to implementing single touch payroll, one for the larger employers and now for smaller employers. So they actually saw what was going on in other countries. We're not the first to do this, but they saw how the process was implemented and the teething problems that they had overseas. And a lot of it came down to the smaller employers. So that's why they've delayed the start of single touch payroll for smaller employers. So why do it? The main reason is for employees to have a greater transparency about what's being paid to them and whether it's actually being paid. This is particularly important for superannuation entitlements. There's been a lot of publicity over the years that some employers have not actually paid the superannuation entitlements that employees are entitled to. And this will give the ATO and the employees a lot more transparency about what their entitlements are and whether they've actually been paid. So one follow-on from single touch payroll is that the superannuation funds report the contributions they've received as they're received, and the ATO will match up those pieces of information. And when employers have become delinquent in making the superannuation payments, the ATO will be onto that straight away. So using technology to get a better outcome for employees Australia-wide. So it's also a way of keeping up with modern technology. And yeah, the ATO is trying to move forward. Now, apparently there are a couple of other stages in this single touch payroll which haven't been implemented and are in the pipeline, but it will also reduce further the need for reporting by small and medium businesses. So you'll have a single point of reporting, and it's expected that this will cover things like state payroll taxes and workers' compensation as well. So we'll wait to see the detail on how that is implemented and the timing for that. So the key changes that we have here are that for your employees, it won't actually change how they get paid. Nothing changes about that part of the process. The only difference is that the information is reported to the ATO each time you pay them. And it's also submitted digitally. So there's no transposition errors, there's no delays in paperwork. It must be reported digitally. And it will be the single source of the reporting of salary, wages, tax collected and super contributed for employees. So we're replacing a number of different ways of submitting information to one digital source, and also increasing the frequency of when you report. So what information does get reported at the moment? So it will be employees' salaries and wages information, so their gross wages. It will also report the tax that's been withheld from their wages, so the PAYG withholding. And it also reports the superannuation contributions information, which is the super guarantee and any voluntary contributions the employee has requested. It will report the amount as well as the super fund that is to be paid to. So the reporting is required to be made on the day that you make the pay, so on the same day. So as part of your payroll process, you will need to report it electronically to the ATO. Now, the payday here is either the payment date that you're going to do the electronic transaction, or the date that you intend to make the payment to the employee. So if you intend to make the payment on a Monday, but you don't actually make it till later in the week, the due date for making the report is actually on the Monday. So how does it affect you? Well, it will affect you as an employer from 1 July, becomes mandatory for all employers in Australia. And as I mentioned, the larger employers have already been required to use this since the 1st of July 2018. So that system is already in place. Submission has to be done electronically via digital software. And if you're using a cloud accounting package such as Xero or QuickBooks, these features are already available within the software. They've already been developed for you and are ready to go. And in fact, many people have already adopted using single touch payroll through those systems. But if you're using a manual system or a spreadsheet or a system that doesn't have isn't digital or it's still desktop, you will need to use a cloud payroll or a single touch payroll lodgement tool. Now, a number of these are being developed by different suppliers, and the ATO has an approved register of these, and these solutions are required to be made available at a cost of no more than $10 per month. So it will be a low-cost solution, and there are a range of different product providers, all with different features. So if you're using those, it will cost you no more than $10 a month. The flexibility and what is actually recorded and reported will be different depending on the vendor. But if you are going down that track and having to move to a reporting tool for cloud payroll, it's not much of a bigger step to actually convert across to a digital accounting package. Now, this is a good time to review your current payroll and your management systems, such as your scheduling and your human resource management, how you record the information on your employees, such as their timesheets, how much they work, the overtime, expenses and cost management. And there are also some opportunities to look at how you actually record and plan for your employee development and the recruitment and onboarding of employees. Now, these are additional features that you can actually access as part of a cloud payroll service or a digital tool. And they will actually improve your ability to run your business and to get better visibility about what's going on with your employees and how you can help to develop them further so that they can actually be more productive for you. So getting all of this information in place, but making sure that all the current information you have in place is up to date. So current details about employee addresses, making sure that they've got the right tax elections in place, that you're paying them correctly. So if they have a HELP or a HEX debt, that is actually recorded correctly, so that when you do go live with Single Touch Payroll, the information that's being transmitted will be correct. So to get started, you do need to choose which digital software you're going to be using for submitting Single Touch Payroll. And if you're already using a cloud solution such as Xero, then that will already be in place for you. Then you will need to connect to the ATO, and you have to actually opt in to choose it. So it depends who is actually processing your payroll, who should opt in. So if you do your payroll in-house, then you should choose to opt in. But if you use somebody like Pretium Solutions to process your payroll, then we would do the opt-in, and because we would be the person processing the pay run. If it's a combination, then both of us, yourself and Pretium Solutions, would need to opt in as the processor for Single Touch Payroll. So how do you opt in? I'm actually going to go through the process using Xero Payroll. We have a lot of clients on Xero Payroll, and it's something that's very familiar to us. The process will be very similar for other digital accounting solutions and payroll, but I'm just going to give you an example using Xero Payroll because it's quite straightforward, and a lot of people are using Xero today. So in the payroll menu in Xero, or you will go and select to do a pay run for employees, or choose pay employees. And in Xero at the moment, you will get a message about whether you want to activate seamless reporting with Single Touch Payroll, and you'll have the option to get started and click the setup. So this message will come up on the screen asking you to opt in, and you just need to click on the opt-in button. Now, it's not a very lengthy process to set up, so it will only take you a matter of, say, well, the most lengthy part of the process will be talking to the ATO, which, you know, get in now and they won't be so busy. So the next stage is that you need to review your organisation details, and if necessary, update that before you go further down the process of registering. And it's important here to get the legal name correct, or the trading name, and make sure that that actually matches with the ATO records. Now, a lot of people set up their cloud accounting or their desktop package using a trading name or a business name, but it's not actually the name that matches what's on the ATO records for how the business is registered for PAYG, withholding, and GST. So it's important to make sure that those details match up, and check that the postal address and phone number recorded in your software match what the ATO have. If not, you'll need to update those organisation details or contact the ATO to have them amended. Next stage of the process is that you will need to connect your cloud payroll or your digital payroll service to the ATO, and in Xero, the process is outlined for you. You do need to contact the ATO, and you can ring the ATO, which may be the easiest way, or you can actually go through their Access Manager tool and authorise your Oz key to accept the digital payroll. But ringing the ATO will probably be the simplest and quickest way to do that. The next step is that you need to provide proof of ownership of the payroll to the ATO. So when you contact the ATO, they will ask for your business number. They will also ask for the details of the software provider. If you're using Xero, the details will be there, and any other package, the details will be provided for you. So if you're using Xero, you would advise that the software provider is Xero Australia Proprietary Limited with the ABN, and there will be a software ID number which will be unique to your payroll. Then once you have contacted the ATO and advised them, then you can confirm the selection by saying that you've contacted the ATO to connect your payroll to Single Touch Payroll, and then click on register. Okay. Well, now, once you have that registered, you're ready to get started. And in Xero, you would go to your pay runs, and you'll see now that there is a new column there called STP filing. And it will show the details of payrolls that have not been filed and which have been filed. So to file, you would then just click on the latest payroll. And now, the one thing here is if you've got people on different payroll calendars, you'll need to do a filing for each different payroll calendar. So within each pay run, you'll now have the option to file. And when by clicking on the file button, that will submit your payroll details to the ATO. And at each time of the filing, you just have to do a declaration saying that you're authorised to submit the information and declaring that you're using the software to lodge the single touch payroll information with the ATO on your behalf. So tick and then submit to the ATO. And that's the process of registering and lodging for single touch payroll. They have made it very simple to follow. There is quite a bit of help available and a lot of videos available, but they have actually made single touch payroll quite simple. They have ironed out a lot of the administrative processes and made sure that it is a very straightforward process for small and medium businesses, making it easier for you. So one of the steps that is important is to communicate with your employees, because there will be some change for them, not in terms of how they receive their weekly pay, but they will find some changes in how they get their information about their earnings at the end of the year. So we do need to check that whoever is responsible for operating payroll or running payroll in your organisation are aware of what has to happen and how it works. So you may want to pass on this webinar recording to them to run through or direct them to some of the information that's available on the ATO website. As we mentioned before, it's a good time to make sure that you've got the correct pay rates for your employees, using the correct tax tables. If you're on a digital solution for payroll, you should already be on the latest payroll. If you're on a desktop version, you may need to look into whether that has been updated correctly. It's a good way to stay up to date is to use digital software for payroll, because the pay scales are always automatically updated for you, and that makes it easier to address. And so you avoid those situations where you've taxed your employees incorrectly. And again, make sure that you have got accurate information on your employees, including their correct addresses and dates of birth. Clean it up now, clean up your payroll, make sure there's no issues before you register for single touch payroll. Yes, you can clean it up afterwards, but it's always better to prepare correctly. So the changes for the employees, nothing changes. Pay slips are still a mandatory requirement, and they will still be receiving a pay slip each pay period, telling them how much they've been paid and what's been withheld. The key difference for the employee is that there will not be a payment summary or a PAYG summary, and we used to call these group certificates, issued to them at the end of the year. So they will not be receiving a PAYG summary, and that will be the key difference, and that will be where most of the questions come from. On the flip side, they will be able to view all of their year-to-date payroll details at any time by logging into their MyGov account via the website. The MyGov website. There will also be some other information available to them regarding their taxes and other benefits via the MyGov website. So it may be worthwhile registering for that MyGov if they don't already have it. And of course, the payroll information will pre-fill into their end of year tax return if they're using an electronic tool, which everybody now has to use to submit their tax return to the ATO. So you can opt in early. You do not have to wait until 1 July 2019. If you do opt in before 1st of July, do you need to prepare payment summaries at the end of the year? Well, no, you don't, because when you submit your first filing of a pay run, it will bring in all the year-to-date figures. All of the payroll, the accumulated wages and PAYG withholding up to the point of that first filing will be sent to the ATO. The other question that comes up is if you've had an employee terminated earlier in the year, before you do your first filing, are they included in that information? And the answer here is no, but there is an end of year reconciliation process as part of Single Touch Payroll where you finalise each year. And as part of that process, that is where those terminated employees' details will be recorded and transmitted to the ATO. So again, they will not need to be issued with a payment summary. So if you do need help, help is available in terms of setting up a cloud accounting software to actually make your business run more efficiently, or to set up a cloud payroll service for Single Touch Payroll as a standalone. Those options are available to you, and we're certainly available to help in any way that you need and provide some recommendations on what might be the best option for your business. Small employers can start reporting any time before, but you do have up until the 30th of September to make your first submission using Single Touch Payroll. And the ATO will have already stated that they'll grant deferrals to any small employer who requests additional time to start Single Touch Payroll reporting because they're aware that there are issues there that not every small business employer has the capability. So they've also said that there'll be no penalties for mistakes, missed or late reports in that first year. So remember that you're required to submit your Single Touch Payroll report for each payroll on the day that you are due to pay your employees. So there will be a lot of opportunities for late submission, but if it's part of your process just to click on file at the end of each payroll pay run, then there will never be a late report. Now, the ATO have also stated that they're going to be providing exemptions from this STP reporting for any employers experiencing hardship or in areas with intermittent or no internet connection. Now, there are some areas, particularly in rural areas, where internet availability is quite poor or inconsistent, and there's even some areas in Sydney where the internet connection is completely unreliable. So the ATO is aware of that, and they are making concessions on that basis. If you make a mistake with Single Touch Payroll, is it the end? Does that mean that you can't change things? Well, no, but it is limited. You can only revert the most recent pay run even if it's been filed. So you're limited to only going back and editing one pay run. Any other errors will need to be fixed by what we call an unscheduled pay run and making those adjustments in the next pay run that's submitted to the ATO. The ATO requires every pay run to be submitted so that the information is current and up to date. So I don't think we've got any questions. It's quite a straightforward process, and as I said, Single Touch Payroll could be relabeled as Simple Payroll because the ATO have done a fairly good job in making this a simple process for everybody to follow and to implement, and we're hoping that it will actually save time and help you focus on running your business and running your business for the reasons that are more important. So growing your business, growing your sales and making more profit. Thank you for joining us this morning. I hope that that's helpful. And if you do need help in setting up or choosing your STP provider, we're here to help you, and we can be contacted on any of those channels, or just contact us via the office on our phone number. But we're here to help you in any way that you need regarding Single Touch Payroll. Thank you very much and have a great day.